In 1914, there were 4 million Jews in the Russian Empire. Battered by pogroms and denied rights allowed the Tsar's other minorities, Jews were forced to live in specified areas, known as the Pale of Settlement. And even though 650,000 Jews served in the army, many Russian officers and men saw Jews as dirty, half-human creatures.
First of April 1915. The Ruskies make fun of the Jews, saying they can munch their matzos for now. But when Passover's finished, they'll sort them out. Send them to Siberia.
Helena Yablonska lived at number 20, František Street, in the heart of Old Przemysl. A third of the town's population were Jews. They'd been safe enough there under the Austro-Hungarians, but now Helena watched the Russians root them out within days of taking over.
Tuesday, the 30th of March. Jews are treated with no mercy. They cut the beard and sideburns off the old rabbi from Birja, then strapped him to a horse and dragged him away. They beat his wife. Jews are not allowed to own any shops. Saturday, the 17th of April. The Cossacks waited till the Jews went off to pray, then set upon them with whips, taking them from synagogues, streets and doorsteps. Many hundreds of Jews. What'll they do with them? Some of the older, weaker ones couldn't keep up and were whipped. The roundup will go on till they've caught the lot. Such lamenting and despair. Some hide in cellars, but the Russians will find them.
No one knows how many Jews were killed in Eastern Europe during the First World War. 600,000 were uprooted, of whom 200,000 never returned home. After their experiences under the Russians, many Jews looked to the Germans for better treatment. German officers entered the main Jewish street of Mlawa, north of Warsaw. The Germans tried to win the support of Jews in Eastern Europe by promising them liberation from the Russian yoke. Meanwhile, the assimilated Jews of Germany showed their patriotism by joining up. Emma and Fritz Schlesinger see their friend Ludwig Bornstein off to the front, one of 100,000 Jews who fought for the Kaiser. German Jewish soldiers mark Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, in 1916. 12,000 were killed in the war. Nearly 30,000 received decorations. But while Jews were tolerated within the German army, many soldiers despised them. Ernst Nopper passed columns of refugees, forced out of their homes by the Russians, are now returning.
I couldn't bear to watch as a Polish family struggled on foot while the entire lazy Jewish population travelled on carts. I hauled a Jew off and gave his arse a good kicking, before making the 3 Poles with all their baggage climb up onto the cart. I let everyone know that I would have all the Jews shot if they didn't let the Poles continue on their journey.
The breakthrough continued through the summer. This was the greatest victory of the Central Powers in the war, seizing present-day Poland, Lithuania, parts of Belarus, and the Ukraine. As the Germans advanced, they entered a world half destroyed. German troops convert Russian railway lines to the narrower German gauge. Rebuilding the communication system became a key task, rich in symbolic meaning. Germany aimed to recast Poland as an independent state, but under her wing. Advancing troops saw themselves as bringing civilizing order and discipline.
That which seemed forever lost was created anew by the German battalions of Kultur. The German spirit blows through the poor land, and new life rises up out of the ruins.
But that's not how it worked out, however keen the Germans were to present a caring image to their newsreel audiences. American woman Laura de Turchanovich lived in the occupied town of Suwałki near the Lithuanian border. To her, the rebuilt railways and roads weren't bridges between cultures. They were Germany's means of whipping war booty back home.
Furniture was carted daily to East Prussia. The woods were cut down, every agricultural implement taken, every woman outraged. All Poland was to be emptied and carted away, beaten into the bargain, and made to pay such terrible contributions.
Faced with a chronic labour shortage, and with little love for Slav or Russian, the German army began transporting men to the west for forced labour. The American Red Cross distributes food aid to starving Polish peasants. Reluctant to feed conquered populations, the German army became increasingly obsessed with cataloguing them. Everyone over 10 was to be documented, and nearly 2 million photo passes were issued. The Germans also began to view the East as a place of disease and started large-scale disinfecting programs. On the 17th of October 1915, the German field medical commander ordered that all railway crossings on the eastern border be sealed off. Everyone crossing the frontier had to be deloused before setting foot on German soil. Winter 1915. The racial war of Teuton versus Slav neared its peak. German and Austro-Hungarian forces moved south to destroy Serbia. This would win control of the Balkans, final revenge for the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And they had a new ally, Bulgaria, tempted by Germany's military muscle and certain this was the winning side. The bait dangled before Bulgarian leader Ferdinand was the promise of vast swathes of Serbia. Born in Vienna, Ferdinand had few sympathies for his Slav neighbors.
The purpose of my life is the destruction of Serbia.
On the 6th of October 1915, a joint German-Austro-Hungarian force invaded Serbia, taking the capital in just 2 days. The Bulgarian army then entered from the southeast. The Serbs' only way out of their country was into Albania, but that lay across treacherous mountain ranges. As their enemies' claws closed around them, the Serbian army slipped away, and the people fled with them. Serbian photographer Risto Marjanović documented his nation's exodus. One of the refugees was 12-year-old Katarina Kostic.
We spent the nights in the open, beside a fire, which would scorch one side of your body while the other froze. One morning, a woman refugee woke up and happily announced that she'd had something soft beneath her head that night. To our horror, the soft thing turned out to be a human corpse.
One soldier threw away his rifle to carry an old woman who had collapsed. She gestured towards the sound of the enemy closing in and handed him back his weapon. They halted here, on the Field of Blackbirds, in Kosovo. The Serb nation drew breath while its leaders met in the town of Prizren. The choices were grim: battle it out, surrender, or survive to fight another day. Journalist Gordon Smith watched the debate inside the town seminary.
The final councils did not last long. On November the 24th, the supreme resolution was taken. The king, army, and government would refuse to treat with the enemy and would leave for Albania.
Hundreds of thousands of troops and civilians set off into the mountains. Their plan: to reach the Mediterranean and sail to safety. This epic retreat shaped modern Serbian self-perception, taking its place in national myth alongside the 1389 defeat by the Turks on the same Field of Blackbirds. Still an open wound today. A Serbian film, directed by a veteran of the march, reconstructed its agony.
The further we went, the worse it got. You didn't hear the usual: men swearing, officers yelling orders. This huge funeral procession of the state of Serbia endured the pain in silence. Who tramped behind me? Who in front? Where was my company? All too soon we fell apart. Now it was every man for himself.
We staggered up mountains, then clambered down, avoiding quagmires from which the hands reached out of poor people who'd got stuck. We stumbled, running out of strength, but could not turn back. We had to move on.
The survivors gathered on the island of Corfu. Exhaustion, starvation, and disease continued to take their toll. Half the army, over 200,000 men, had died on the march. No one knows how many